maybe should be in this world. Just wasn't too sure, wasn't so happy about the end for the drone, but I suppose at least he dies with a smile on his face. But a short life. Anyway, it gives me great pleasure to be invited to Rotary. I think I first heard about Rotary 50 years ago. My father was... excuse me, Jim. Yep. Okay. My father was president of Bangor Rotary, and it was something that he was incredibly proud of. He was also proud of me. I sometimes think for the very first time when I got into medicine at Queen's, due to the discrimination we had in those days, that women weren't actually judged on their merit, which was great, because only 15% of medical students were female in those days. But it was, he was very proud of me, and it was actually 50 years ago today that I started as a medical student, so it was great. I checked the date when I saw it. But anyway, we've been here for a long time, and it's been quite a journey. And the bees may not have changed what they've been doing over the years, but we have. So we go back 10 million years when we were right back as a naked ape, I suppose. And then in the last 2.5 million years, we've really ratcheted it up, and we're up to where we are, Homo sapiens, for the last 70 years. And it's been a process of evolution that has been carrying on, as I say, for 10 million years. And then we have been working our way from the cradle of mankind, and the cradle of mankind is Maripeng in South Africa. I go to South Africa every year for one reason or another. And Maripeng near Sun City is just where it all started, all those many millions of years ago. The whole evolutionary process to produce the perfect human being, and at last we've got him. It is amazing how evolution has brought us this wonderful human being. I often think, is there one feature of this man that I would like my father, my son, my uncle, my whatever to have had? And the answer is no. But it is interesting that the dermoplastic reconstruction of a Neanderthal from 28,000 years ago, you can see that it's very close to Donald. And, but in fact, in that 28,000 years, we do actually have very similar brains, although we don't have the, believe it or not, we don't have as big a social functioning part of our brains as Neanderthal man has. But we're very similar otherwise. And of course, if we go to, in 1922, a creation museum opened in America, where they really do believe it all started 5,000 years ago. I have to say that's also in line with some of the politicians here in Northern Ireland. We also believe that it started 5,000 years ago and haven't changed one iota of their thinking since that time. But however, I was very lucky in my work to go to Hargeisa in Somaliland on a few occasions. And I was taken to a cave that was only found about 10 years ago. And we saw these wonderful drawings, paintings on the walls. They're 40, 50,000 years old. And the creationists are correct in their self-portraits. Which makes you think, doesn't it? Very clever, the cows in those days, that they could actually paint on the walls. Anyway, this all started with a kiss, doesn't it? It all starts with a kiss. And in Ireland, often there's another man in the background, and quite often the church. So there is, that's just the way we are. And sometimes we get carried away. I sometimes show this picture, and I look at the mother on the right, and look at the man on the left, and he looks more like a son, really, doesn't he? She is knackered. And, but anyway, that's what she is. So she was doing her bit. And of course, before we had Instagram and Snapchat and emails and even Kodak or Ilford or whatever else, then we had art. And if we go back to the pre-religious days, the pre-Christian days, 4,000 years BC, this is the way men and women were portrayed by the artists of that time, back in pagan days, where the woman was dignified, clothed, and equally respected to the man. We have to then come to religious times, Christian times, and the woman stands meekly and reverently beside the man, just because she now knows her place. And I'm sure there are little pockets amongst these 32 counties where this still occurs, but obviously not amongst Rotarians. But what happened? What happened to change it? Well, in fact, it was indeed men happened. And Engels in 1884, along with Karl Marx, wrote The Origin of the Family, Private Property and the State. And there's no doubt about it that men, and men of religion, whether by plan, by design, by accident, whatever, women were put to the end of the food chain. It was all about men from then on. And men control and run religion to this day. And you have to think of any religion, whether it's Buddhism, Christianity, Coptics, Judaism, the Hinduism, or Islam. Men are predominant in their religions, and it's to their benefit to do that. Whereas if we go back before that, of course, Isis, the goddess, she was worshipped by us all in pagan times and in Greco-Roman times, because she was this amazing creature that you gave her a seed and she produced a human being. How wonderful how that was. And there's no doubt here in Ireland we had Maeve in pagan times, and we all really did worship the goddess. And if we look on the right hand side, we see Isis with Horus, her son, but Isis was the goddess and the son was God sitting on her knee. Whereas in Christian times, we decided that Mary was simply a frame for carrying the God, Jesus, on her knee. So it's interesting times. Hinduism is the only religion now in the world where woman is worshipped as a god, men and women, gods interchangeable. So the battle has been going on for some time. You may be interested to know that, maybe some of you do know, that celibacy only became a thing in the Catholic Church in 1000 AD. Before that, there was no celibacy. And it was all to do with land. It's all to do with land ownership, so that when the man died, the land didn't go to the woman. So patriarchy and patrilinearity, and matriarchy and matrilinearity has been quite a battle, or was a battle, over hundreds and hundreds of years. What's in a name? After all, take Mrs. Robinson. When I was a teenager, I just lay and thought about Mrs. Robinson all the time. Everybody. She gave us belief. She gave belief that we could actually pull our best friend's mother. There's no doubt about it. So Mrs. Robinson, who gave belief, and then there's the Mrs. Robinson who had a belief, the wonderful Mary Robinson. And then, of course, there's the Mrs. Robinson who beggars belief. So there's no doubt what's in the name. Well, of course, the answer is the winner was patriarchy and patrilinearity, and that has been the rule for the last 2,000 years. So the men that control religion and do so to this day are the key. Even in Pakistan, and I'm married to somebody, to a beautiful woman from Pakistan, and she has shared these facts with me. I thought that was a wonderful talk this morning from Faith, I must admit, absolutely. And I know there are problems in Pakistan, but the wonderful thing Rotary are doing and have been doing for polio, the fight against polio throughout the world, and well done for that. But this young girl here, if you in Pakistan, if you can't find a suitable cousin for the girl to marry, they actually marry her to the Quran, rather than leave her, so that at least her possessions stay within the family. This is Saudi Arabia in 2016. You maybe see there's a lot of men there. Do you know what they're doing? There's Congress to establish women's rights. And that is an actual picture. And of course, we now hear this week that they have at last, they're going to allow women in Saudi Arabia to drive cars. And you may think, well, it's not wonderful. At least they're moving. At least they're changing. But be sure that it's the economy, stupid. They can't find enough men to drive the cars around. And so it's actually need that's making them do that. So it's a very interesting subject. Here, just last year, we found in Pakistan, the Council of Islamic Ideology has recently advised the Pakistani government that husbands should be allowed to lightly beat their wives. You could beat them as long as you don't draw any blood or break bones. Just wonderful. This is 2016. Amazing. So in response, the Pakistani women have been rallying behind hashtag try beating me lightly. Again, I'm sure there are parts of Rotary life in Ireland where you could go along with that. Anyway, just before you think of Islam, let me just remind you that 2,000 years ago, at the beginning, or apparently at the beginning of the Bible, women were seen as being the cause of all Adam's problems. It's woman's sin, that because of it, woman's sin. So let's just remind ourselves in Genesis 3, it says, "And the Lord God said unto woman, What is this that thou hast done? Because thou hast done this, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In pain and sorrow thou shalt bring forth children." I mean, prior to that time, childbirth was totally painless. Only because of Eve's sin that it became painful. And it is phenomenal that men decided that labour should be painful. It's interesting, we maybe don't want to talk about it, but in the 16th and 17th centuries, in the Dark Ages, 80,000 women were burned at the stake by the church. They initiated this by the church throughout Europe because women were seen as being too powerful, too clever, too scientific, too much into herbs and nursing and midwifery. Midwives were burnt because they tried to help women through the trials of labour, including 4 midwives from Ireland, and I mean that. Personally, I could have made it a longer list, but there were 4 midwives. But it actually was incredible that 80,000 women died. I mean, it is absolutely no wonder that there was a Protestant Reformation and a Catholic Reformation, and all things had to happen, but they didn't really reform it enough, in my own opinion. So at the end of the day, as I say, men paid for everything, and women were undervalued and sexualized. There's hardly a church or an art gallery you could go to within Europe where women isn't portrayed like this. This is the way women are seen, whereas men are dressed and are dignified. And so the women have been sexualized really for centuries and centuries. Sir Edward Jenner, he of smallpox fame, said that rather than see his own daughter before him at the dissecting table as a medical student, he preferred to see her dead. He actually said that. He preferred to see her dead. And in these Celtic islands that we're living in here now, in 1860 there was an act that forbade women going to university. It just forbade them. And for 20 years that was in place. And so it was only really when women started fighting back, Jane Austen, Alcott, Bronte, Nightingale, who started the fight to get women back to where they were 4,000 years ago. And I'm telling you, they're not even there yet. But they started the fight. And the 1830 revolution, liberty leading the people. Oh, it's like that with the flag in one hand and the rifle in the other. It's a bit like the Armalite in one hand, the voting paper in the other. But anyway, that's it. So women were really, started the fight back at the end of the 20th century, or end of the 19th century. And it's a fight that is still going on. Mind you, women in golf, my 2 favourite counties in Ireland are County Down and County Galway. We have a house in Connemara. And next door to me is a wonderful orthodontist called Martin Walsh. And Martin loves his golf. And Martin says that really the whole thing went wrong when they put windows into kitchens. And so if they hadn't done that, everything would be fine. But we have to say they got there, and to every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. And Germaine Greer may have been a bit reactive for people, but boy did she need to start trying to get the balance back to the middle in this male-dominated world in which we live. And some people would say maybe we've gone a bit too far, and men now feel demasculinized, and perhaps we need to swing the back again here and there in parts. So the journey is indeed far from over, and there's still a lot of chauvinism. Now, as I say, to every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. It's hard to believe when you watch Afghanistan on the television tonight. Even Pakistan, I'm sure Dr. Faison would agree. But there's in Kabul in 1972 on the top picture there, and there's Kabul in Afghanistan today. And it's very sad indeed, and there's another talk altogether about how we got there. But isn't this just ridiculous? And this is done by the same sort of people who voted in Moore in Alabama the other night. And don't think they're any different. They're absolutely no different at all. But at least a woman, even if she's got a little corner of her eye as you're walking down O'Connell Street or Royal Avenue in Belfast, she can still communicate. Personally, I'm not against the full burqa. I just think it should be us that decides who wears them. So I think there are people who would be better under a burqa, and I'm sure maybe Rotary could start that. But anyway, I am an obstetrician, and it did take me a while to learn how to say the words myself. But I am an obstetrician gynecologist, and I did get involved when I was council member for Ireland and senior vice president of the Royal College in London, which covers the whole of these islands. Back 10, 12 years ago, started the international office, and at that time Newsweek was reminding us what kills one woman every minute of every day, and of course it's childbirth, not AIDS, not heart attacks, so it's childbirth. And sadly, women are seen, I think the worst thing I heard in my whole time working there, and over the last 12 years, is where in many parts of the world, when a woman is about to die unless she has a cesarean, the man will think, I can't afford to do that, it'd be cheaper to let her die and get a new wife. And that is phenomenal, but that's happening day and daily, I promise you, because that is the economic decision the man has to make at that moment in time. So the Taj Mahal was built, as you know, I'm sure, by Mumtaz was the mother, Shah Jahan built it for the loss of his wife, who died in childbirth from hemorrhage, and he loved her so much, and he built this in memory of her. So the Millennium Development Goals were developed by the United Nations prior at the end of the last millennium, and it was maybe one that I was working on, if you like, I was told to work on, was number 4 and 5, reducing child mortality and improving maternal health. I honestly was only in it about a week before I realised that the one I really ought to be doing would be number 3, promoting gender equality and empowerment of women. So I've been on a journey. I'm not the same man as I was 20 years ago. I have realised that the answer to if you educate a woman, if you empower a woman, to be honest with you, she'll save her own life. At least she'll know how to access the services that will save her own life. And if I had to do it all over again, I probably wouldn't do medicine. I would do education. Because education, and education of women is really the way forward. Empowerment, what do I mean? Maternal necessities, food and clothes, psychosocial control of our own lives, political empowerment, having a voice. Maternal mortality being included was good. Universal education, good. HIV and malaria were good. That was good. But there was no Millennium Development Goals were silent on women's security and dignity, and silent on the violations of women's rights. And they were silent on the need to uphold women's sexual and reproductive rights. Why? Because of this man. This man immediately stopped all the aid that was occurring for sexual and reproductive rights around the world. The good news is that Obama and Melinda Gates, who we've already mentioned, on a big journey for Melinda Gates, who is a Catholic herself and had to think long and hard and take a long and hard walk before she would walk the walk. And she still walks the walk today for sexual and reproductive, full sexual and reproductive rights for women throughout the world. The sad news is that the first thing this man did when he got into power within a week was sign it to stop it all again. So all sexual and reproductive rights help in the under-resourced world was stopped at the stroke of a pen who was licking up to the Baptists. And the fact of the matter is, if you think he's dangerous, the fellow to his right is even more dangerous. So be careful what you wish for. Yeah. Sexual and reproductive rights includes this full list: education to stop violence and sexual abuse, full contraception access, STD screening, pre-pregnancy counselling, pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, full pregnancy anomaly screening, termination for all maternal health indications, full perinatal neonatal services, and full perinatal psychiatric services. And here I pause just to show a picture of 7 happy midwives, and to show you that I had to go to Nigeria to get that. The journey is indeed far from over. This lady, Dr. Joy Darling, delivered me in 1948. And Joy was a wonderful woman whose father wouldn't let her do medicine. So she did languages and did translation at night and earned enough money to put herself through medicine. She ended up as an anaesthetist in Belfast. She became Irish tennis champion. She had 3 children. She ran a home on the Antrim Road in Belfast for fallen women and for men coming back from the war. She did a little bit of private obstetrics in order to pay for it all, and my mother assures me that that was why I was there and not because she was a fallen woman. So I don't know her word for that. But it was wonderful. But she went to Queen's University, and Queen's University seemed a wonderful place. I saw this photograph in a friend's house recently of the Literific Society. And what can you say? Well, hey, there is a couple of women there, so at least they were ahead of the game. But look at the woman at the bottom right, Miss Grummett, whose father was headmaster of Royal Belfast Academical Institution. She was the presidential ashtray bearer. Major job. So that picture was taken in the 60s, you know, we're not talking about the 1850s. So there's no doubt that in the 70s we were a bit paternalistic. When I started off in medicine, a lot of men still look like that, they still do in OMA. And the fact of the matter is that we had induction of labour and we had monitoring, and we thought, wow, we can save babies. So we came into labour ward, but we came in through like the cavalry, and to be honest with you, we've been cleaning up after it ever since. So it was with the best intentions that we came in and did it that way around. And then a great fight started between ourselves and our staff about who is in control of labour ward. And the 1990s saw women's choice, and in fact it was an obstetrician from OMA who wrote on a chart, this woman is perfectly normal from the neck down. And so, in fact, this was the discovery in the 1990s. Was women's choice. We could actually involve the woman in the care of her pregnancy from then on. So women have now put us where we should be, and they know better about the way forward. And I'm delighted to say that after all this time, this year, just a few weeks ago at last, we have balance and common sense. When probably because we have a female president of the Royal College of Midwives and a female president of the College of Obstetricians, first time in 70 years, and we have at last a bit of common sense where the midwives have announced back down on natural childbirth. And they said that it had been a time of huge moral corruption, a time of desperate destruction of the environment, a time of huge misogyny and testosterone-driven wars. And just think to yourself, why? Why, for 2,000 years, did all that happen? So at the end of the day, I hope that I will engender the spirit of Maeve, she who intoxicates, the Queen of Connaught, brave, majestic, intelligent, beautiful. The journey is far from over, but keep on fighting. Thank you very much. And I was his only son. But in my final year, when I saw the birth of the baby, that's why I became an obstetrician. But I was pretty standard obstetrician until I have to say that two things happened. I met Samina, who is I met her down in Dublin. She was working in Limerick at the time when my first wife had died after that. just to get the order right for everybody. She is a great fighter of rights, not just rights, women's rights, all rights. Then when I went to the Royal College and I realised the plight the women are in, and then the more I think about it, the reason why I'm saying the journey is far from over is there's a slight complacency about people in this part of the world, that the fight is over and we don't need to.
Well, you know, I work in the media industry and there's still that pay imbalance and pay gap between men and women. Yeah. But, you know, what do you think, us as Rotarians, what do you think we can be doing to kind of readdress the balance?
Do you know what you can do? I think the proudest day of my life as an Irishman from Northern Ireland was watching the vote in the Republic of Ireland on that Friday afternoon on radio, on RTE2. And my wife and I sat there, and I literally shivered even down my spine talking about Dornan. Because that wasn't about gay rights. That was the young people of Ireland saying, this is our country. And I love that. And so what I think you should do, I am surprised that the women of Ireland and the journalists of Ireland have formed themselves into a pressure group. I am surprised and disappointed. Yeah. Because I know that you are fighting, you think you're fighting, but there's so many people out there trying to fight for women's rights. And I think you should form yourselves into a coven.
I hope you don't get for a mistake or anything. But honestly, I mean this from my own heart. It was very inspiring to hear a man hear you deliver a message, which I've heard so many women deliver throughout the years, but to hear such an eminent medical professional deliver it, really was inspiring. So thank you so much for that. And I think you saw this Yes, moving on for lunch now, and we'll see you back here about 2 o'clock if that's alright, so thank you very much.